What would you do if you found out a data center had quietly pulled 30 million gallons of your county's water through a hookup the utility didn't even know existed, all while you were being told to stop watering your lawn? That's not a hypothetical. That's Fayette County, Georgia. Two industrial water connections feeding a QTS campus 20 miles south of Atlanta. One installed without the utility knowing, one never billed. Residents noticed because their water pressure dropped. The county sent a bill for about $147,000, and the company paid it. And then the city of Fayetteville banned new data centers in every single zoning district in town. That's what a broken trust relationship costs. And it's exactly why Erin Brockovich, the woman who took down PG&E, has turned her attention to the AI infrastructure boom. Yes, that's Erin Brockovich, the one Julia Roberts played in the movie.
There's two things that aggravate me, Mr. Masry: being ignored and being lied to.
The real case ended in a $333 million settlement against PG&E. Here's the part most people covering this missed. In April, she launched a public registry, BrockovichDataCenter.com, where anyone living near one of those facilities can self-report what's happening to them. Within 72 hours, the site crashed twice. It's now collected thousands of reports. So when she's saying something is wrong, she's not guessing. She's reading her inbox.
But overwhelmingly, 90% are absolutely concerned that this is going to suck up all of our water, electricity, and our very valuable resources.
Look, I've spent 30 years designing, building, and commissioning this type of infrastructure, including for federal labs, Fortune 50 pharma. I'm one of the people she's talking about, and I'm going to tell you where she's right and where the industry has generally earned this backlash, and the one place I think she's got the wrong end of it. Stick around, because the thing everybody's angriest about, the shell companies and the NDAs, has a brutal economic explanation. And the biggest company in this industry just quietly admitted the critics won. Start with the water, because that's where she started.
They do not have to be built on top of drought-restricted areas who already are really struggling with water resources.
Now read that carefully, because a lot of people are mischaracterizing her. She's not saying stop building. She's saying stop building them in the wrong places. And on that, she's exactly right. In fact, I'll go further than she did. For decades, the standard way to cool a building full of hot servers was evaporative cooling. You pull municipal water, run it over a cooling tower, throw the heat into the sky as steam, the water is gone, and you're in a drought. In a drought state, that model is finished, economically and politically. And here's what didn't make the podcast. The industry already conceded this fight. Microsoft's newer data centers are built on closed-loop, zero-water evaporative design. Every new design since August 2024. You see, the loop gets filled once during construction and recirculates. There's no ongoing draw for cooling. They put the savings at more than 125 million liters per facility per year. Their CEO said in June that one of their newest AI campuses uses about as much water in a year as a single restaurant. Now, if I stopped there, I'd be doing exactly what the industry always does. So let me give you the part they leave out. Closed loop doesn't make the water disappear, it moves it. Chillers running instead of evaporation means more electricity, and a thermal power plant burns water to make that electricity. So you can build a zero water data center and still increase the water footprint just upstream at the generating station in somebody else's watershed. So the honest version is this. Erin is looking at the sins of the data center's past. The industry is genuinely fixing the things she's pointing at. And the fix hands us a bigger problem, which we'll get to, because it's the real fight. But water isn't actually why your town council meeting turned into a shouting match. It's the secrecy.
They're like using shell companies. The city council's rezoning. They're telling you the truth, but not the full truth.
She's right. Not partly right, right. The way this industry has acquired land for the last decade looks indefensible from the outside. LLCs with meaningless names, mayors and county officials signing NDAs, and a town finding out about a multi-gigawatt campus after the rezoning vote. So why do it? It isn't cartoon villainy. It's land speculation. The moment word gets out that a hyperscaler is looking at a parcel, the price of that parcel and every acre around it reprices instantly. Secrecy protects the acquisition's budget. That's the whole reason. But here's what tells you the activists won. In March, Microsoft announced it's ending NDAs with local governments worldwide. They're going back and terminating the active ones. The first major tech company to do it. Their own general counsel said neighbors deserve to know when they're coming. Companies do not hold a press conference about building community trust unless the community already had them by the throat. That's a win. Erin's side won that one. And I'm going to be straight with you about the fine print, because somebody in the comments will be, they're still using NDAs for the private land transactions. So the era of the secret shell company isn't quite over. What's over is asking your elected officials to keep secrets from you. That's the distinction, and it matters. Quick thing, if you live near one of these and something's changed, your water, your power bill, the noise, go put it on BrockovichDataCenter.com. I'm on the build side and I'm telling you to do that. Bad data is how bad projects get approved. And if you want the infrastructure side of these fights, subscribe. Now here's where it gets interesting, because there's an argument people make that sounds like pure common sense. And this time, she's actually got the facts right, and everybody laughing at her doesn't. If people don't want them in their backyard, where do we put them?
There's been many articles that have come out in China where they built like these tubular housing and they put all their data centers in it and they've got them at the bottom of the ocean.
I've seen people clip that and dunk on it. Don't. She's right. China has a commercial underwater data center off the Hainan Islands. A 1,300-ton module sitting 35 meters down, using seawater as the heat sink. It's operating. It's taking AI workloads. They want 100 modules there. And Microsoft did this first, Project Natick. They sank a capsule off Scotland. And here's the part I'd want to know if I were you. It worked. They lost 6 servers out of 855 underwater versus 8 out of 135 on land. The seawater held the temperature. The sealed nitrogen atmosphere protected the hardware. And then they killed it. Microsoft's head of cloud operations said flatly, not building subsea data centers anywhere in the world. So why? Not because some physics gotcha. 3 reasons. And they're the same 3 reasons this whole industry cites where it cites. 1, scale. Each of those undersea cabins holds roughly 24 racks. A hyperscale data center hall runs 10,000 servers and up. You're comparing a shipping container to a shopping mall. Number 2, you can't service it. A tech can't walk a rack in a sealed tube on the seafloor. You fail a component, you lift the entire module. That's a crane and a vessel instead of a guy with a cart. All right, number 3, power and fiber. And this is the one that decides everything. Look at where the undersea units actually connect. A coastal station. They're not out in the deep ocean. They're right off the beach, because the internet is a physical object. It's light in a glass. Those cables come ashore where the people are, and the power has to come from somewhere on land anyway. When Brookings studied where these facilities actually go, the drivers were power availability, land, and fiber. Not tax breaks, not even close. So no, we can't banish them to the Mariana Trench. But that's not the interesting conclusion. The interesting conclusion is that if the constraint is power and fiber, then the answer isn't a gigawatt monolith next to a high school. It's smaller, distributed facilities that bring their own power, which is exactly the direction the smart money is already moving. So let's hold that thought. Which brings us to the argument that decides most of these votes. What does a town actually get?
And then there's no more jobs.
This is the most common political attack there is. And the permanent headcount generally is low. A co-location facility might run 20 to 30 staff per 100 megawatts. Nobody's disputing that, but somebody finally ran the actual numbers instead of trading press releases. Brookings linked roughly 770 facilities to county-level employment data going back to 2003. Counties that got their first large data center saw total private employment rise 4 to 5% over 5 or 6 years. Construction up 11%. Wages up 3 to 4. And I'm going to give you their caveats too, because I'd rather you trust me in 10 minutes than agree with me right now. Those gains are smaller than the industry claims. Brookings says the naive estimates overstate it by a factor of 3. A single isolated facility does very little. Rural counties see the least. You need a cluster before the real spillover shows up. But the jobs were never the point. The point is the tax base. You see, because a data center is a warehouse full of extremely expensive, rapidly depreciating equipment, and equipment is taxable. Loudoun County, Virginia, home to the largest concentration of data centers on Earth. Data centers now generate about 38% of the county's entire general fund. That's the county administrator's number, not an industry brochure. Here's what that means for a homeowner. Analysis of the 2026 Virginia Data Center Report found that without that revenue, Loudoun's residential property tax rate would have to go from 81 cents to $1.54 per hundred of assessed value. That's a 91% increase, roughly $5,800 a year per household. Somebody is paying for those schools either way. And now the part the industry won't say out loud. That's also a risk. Loudoun's own budget staff have warned data centers could reach 60% of the general fund within 5 to 7 years. That's not a tax base. That's a single point of failure. Any county leaning on one industry for most of its revenue has handed that industry the county. So if you're a supervisor watching this, take the revenue and cap your dependence on it. Both things are true. Everything I just said becomes irrelevant if she's right about the biggest one. Not the water, the power bill.
I'm worried this is a water grab. You're coming in and buying all the land. Who's getting the water rights?
I'm not going to soften this. In the PJM grid, 13 states plus Washington, D.C., capacity prices went from about $29 per megawatt day to $329. PJM's own independent market monitor attributed billions of that directly to data center demand, and across 4 auctions put the added cost near $30 billion. That flows to households. If your bill went up and you suspected the building down the road had something to do with it, you weren't being paranoid. So that's the indictment. Here's the pivot, and it's already happening, and it's not voluntary. The industry is moving behind the meter, bringing its own generation instead of queuing it up for everyone else's. Texas passed Senate Bill 6, which effectively tells large new loads, hey, bring firm power or accept getting curtailed. Ireland's regulators has required on-site generation for data centers since 2021. As of this year, 24 states have approved large load tariffs designed to make these facilities pay their own way. Microgrids, advanced natural gas, geothermal, small modular reactors. The model I'm building toward is a facility that shows up with its own generation, its own closed loop. A tax agreement the county can actually read. A data center that behaves less like a parasite on the grid and more like a power plant that happens to compute. And notice what that does to the siting fight. A behind-the-meter facility doesn't need to squat on your utility's spare capacity, which means it doesn't need to be a gigawatt, which means it doesn't need to be next to your high school. She called it a road to nowhere. I've been on this road for 30 years, and I'd say something different. The road isn't ending, it's changing tracks. Evaporative to closed loop, secret NDAs to public agreements, draining the grid to building your own power. Every one of those changes happened because somebody like her made it more expensive to do it the old way. Here's how I actually think about this. AI is optimization technology. It gets better at doing things every single month. But optimization has no opinion about what's worth doing in the first place. That requires a second technology: human discernment, judgment, the ability to look at a spreadsheet that says yes and say, not there, not like this, not to these people. Erin Brockovich is running the second technology. That's not an obstacle to the build-out. That's the missing half of it. We need the activists to keep us honest. And we need the builders to keep us moving. Anybody telling you to pick one is just selling you something. I write about how this infrastructure is actually changing every week. The water, the grid, all of it. Links in the description. And if you want my response to the other side of this, the people like Ed Zetron saying the whole AI thing is a bubble about to pop, that's one right there. I'm Pete Sacco, and thank you for watching.